Psychology in Film, Fight Club by Turner Harbert, Kimberly Izaguirre, and Sydney Harper. Our project analyzes the disorder presented in the movie Fight Club through the character Tyler Durden. The movie was released in 1999 and appears to also be set sometime in the 1990s. Fight Club is based on a novel written by Chuck Palahniuk in 1996. The movie gives a specific street address but does not provide a city in which the actual Fight Club is founded. However, based on public transportation system used in the movie, one can assume the film is set in the metropolitan city in the Northeast. The protagonist of the film, Tyler Durden, also the narrator, is a middle-aged man with a substandard 9 to 5 office job. The personality portrayed at the beginning of the film, the narrator, does not appear to have many meaningful relationships, and his life is characterized by monotony. This narrator is starkly contrasted with a separate personality, Tyler Durden. Tyler Durden is an off-the-grid character who lives life on the edge without many cares. In the 1990s, psychology had obviously come a long way since its origins. However, the issue of mental health was nowhere near as openly discussed as it is today. As a consequence, many people were unaware of many mental disorders and would be unable to identify even those who they are close to. This might explain why Tyler Durden was never diagnosed. The disorder that the narrator has is called dissociative identity disorder. This disorder is a condition where a person's identity is fragmented into two or more distinctive personality states. DID is a severe form of dissociation, a mental process which produces a lack of connection in a person's thoughts, memories, feelings, actions, or sense of identity. Because of the film's cultural context, a therapist might diagnose the narrator as having depression and anxiety instead of DID. This would happen because many of the symptoms that characterize this disorder also appear in depression and anxiety, like insomnia and suicidal thoughts. Diagnosing dissociative identity disorder takes time, and in different cultures, however different they may be, people usually opt to get rid of the problems by simply disregarding them. A serious issue like DID could go unnoticed for quite a while and not be diagnosed, especially if the person is not aware that he or she has it. One stigma associated with this disorder is that people with it are violent. The truth is that people with DID are no more likely to be violent than anyone else. The idea of an evil and more violent alter is not true. Early on in the film, the narrator explains how for 6 months he couldn't sleep. The narrator has insomnia, and he points out that when you have insomnia, you're never really asleep, and you're never really awake. The narrator even goes as far as talking to a doctor and asking him if he can die from insomnia. The doctor disregards him and mentions how he should go to a support group. The narrator decides to go to a support group for men with testicular cancer, and after seeing true despair, is able to sleep. Going to support groups becomes a habit. Another symptom that the narrator displays is self-destructive behavior or self-harm, which are behaviors that negatively impact our mind and body by the choices we make. This is seen once his alter, Tyler Durden, is presented, and they create Fight Club. Fight Club began when the narrator and Tyler start fighting outside a bar after Tyler prompts the narrator to hit him. The fighting becomes a continuous and regular thing as more and more people join in, and it gets to a point where the narrator goes to a hospital to get stitches. Even though he is getting severely hurt, the narrator does not mind and continues on the path to self-destruction, including picking up a smoking habit like Tyler. The narrator continues to find himself doing things that at the beginning he wouldn't have done. Suicidal tendencies is a symptom that the narrator does not show. Throughout the film, the narrator does not display wanting to die. Even though he gets into fights that get pretty intense, they're just to relieve stress. Although, at the end of the movie, he does shoot himself, but that was just to get rid of his persona, Tyler. Alright, let's see what's next. After some research, the proposed treatment plan is called dialectical behavior therapy. This treatment focuses on improving interpersonal relations, finding alternatives to destructive thoughts and urges, and coming to terms with uncomfortable or dangerous thoughts, and realizing one's personal strengths and validation. This is done through various group activities and developing new skills to help learn to cope with things. Meditation may also be involved. This treatment is appropriate for the character of Tyler Durden because he's known for succumbing to violent acts of aggression and protest due to feeling powerless and small in a seemingly oppressive world. The whole reason he created the persona of Tyler was to do the things he felt his current persona couldn't do. He was just a pushover recall specialist who got tired of how life was treating him and of his own self-proclaimed uselessness. Some examples of his violent and destructive thoughts and actions include blowing up his own apartment, starting various chains of underground fighting rings in multiple cities, kidnapping and beating as means for persuasion, and generally acting like a terrorist. If Tyler, the recall specialist, can accept that those violent ideas were his own and be comfortable with it, there would be no need for a second identity. Furthermore, if Tyler could become confident in himself and find validation for his existence through more productive and positive means, this would also result in not needing a cooler, more capable persona. A common ethical concern for dialectical behavior therapy is the process of respecting and accommodating for the patient's boundaries. Psychologists must balance maintaining strict goals in the critical development of the patient, but must remain flexible when facing the validity of the disorder. As with most psychological treatment, a common issue preventing those from obtaining treatment is a person's socioeconomic status. Receiving the intensive treatment needed for this disorder is expensive and not widely available. While Fight Club provides an interesting perspective to the understanding of dissociative identity disorder, the film often greatly exaggerates the symptoms. People with DID do not visually hallucinate and see a separate entity. However, sufferers might hear voices in their head and feel as though an alter is taking over their physical body. This switch of personas is instantaneous, not drawn out as it is portrayed in the film. Additionally, many sufferers of DID experience more than one alter, not only one opposite persona. Despite the film's drawbacks, it does accurately portray the lapses in memory and narcolepsy that are common symptoms to those actually suffering from dissociative identity disorder. Fight Club also correctly displays alters as coping mechanisms as a result of the disorder. The film's portrayal of the disorder may lead one to believe that those with DID are violent and angry people. However, in reality, sufferers are no more likely to be violent than the average member of society. It would be harmful to fear those with mental disorders, as this film might persuade some to do. The stigma surrounding mental health forces those with mental disorders to hide and halt any open discussions regarding the treatment and awareness of these disorders. And here we have our works cited. Yeah, we have one of those. We looked at websites, and we got info. We went the whole mile. It's pretty good. Anyways, thanks for listening.